Hey everybody, welcome to Mommy's Crime Time. This video is kind of a spur of the moment video because we have just received the information we've been waiting on the Faye Swetlik case, on her autopsy results and the results of the deceased male that was found, Cody Scott Taylor. So I want to go over those results with you guys and let you know what we know now that we didn't know before and maybe put some theories to rest. The first person that spoke at the press conference was the coroner, Margaret Fisher. She started out by giving, her deepest sympathies to the family, thanking everyone, thanking the police departments that helped transport Faye back home in a very tasteful way by giving her a police escort. She went on to let us know that she was not going to talk about the actual condition of Faye's body, that she was doing that out of respect for Faye's family. So all that she didn't tell us much. So there's still a lot of questions that we have in regards to what exactly happened to Faye, but I'll go over that in a moment. She said that, as I said, she would not release a whole lot about the condition of the body, but that she would release the cause of death and time of death. They determined that the time of death occurred only hours after her abduction. So she was killed the day she went missing on February 10th. She was not kept alive or anything like that. She was killed within hours of being taken. She also said the only thing she would release about her death was that she died of asphyxiation. She didn't go into any more detail, and it just leaves so many questions. We want to know I understand that a lot of people feel like it's not our place to know, that we don't need to know, was there sexual assault or anything like that. But at the same time, I do feel like that is important to know, because if this person is the perpetrator, which you will find out they believe he is, then we would need to know, did he have a history of a sexual predator behavior that would open the doors to many other investigations, having people come forward, say, you know what, he did something to me. But because they're not releasing that, I feel like I understand why. Okay, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to sound heartless. But at the same time, I do feel like we should at least know more of the circumstances of her death. Will we get more information about this? Will the actual autopsy report be released? Don't know. I know that in most cases they are public record. They are released. Maybe they didn't want to just release that at the press conference. So I'm hoping that we will get a more in-depth detail of what happened so we can piece all this together. She said she would not give the cause of death for the deceased male found. You'll find that throughout the entire press conference, no one will ever say Cody Scott Taylor's name. They refer to him as the deceased male. I'm assuming this is out of respect for the family. They don't want to give him any notoriety they feel that he does not deserve, so they will not say his name. And she says that the cause of death for him will be released after the press conference to the media, and they can distribute it. Now, I do have that cause of death. She did state that it is an ongoing investigation, so there were some things they still were not going to release, which still don't really understand an ongoing investigation, but you're basically going to find out when I finish this that he was the perpetrator, so who knows. Snellgrove, who was like the chief of the KC Police, the Department of Public Safety, he came on next, and he basically started out by thanking the entire community, law enforcement, everyone who had a hand, the volunteers, the entire Churchill Heights community, everyone that had took part in this, had prayed and been a part of this. He was very, very, you could tell he had emotion because, he was the one who found Faye's body that morning. He goes on to talk about how the mother placed a call, and she looked for Faye for about an hour before placing the call. By 5:03, I believe she made the call at 5. By 5:03, there was an officer already on the scene on February 10th after Faye was reported missing. By 6 p.m. that day, they had already called in SLED and the FBI to assist on this case. By 7 p.m., they had over 90 personnel there. The FBI and the SLED were already on the site, so they were moving very quickly. They were searching ponds, culverts, sheds, pools, anywhere that she could have been. On Tuesday, this is when they got the hotline set up for the tip line for any information leading to Faye, which ultimately we find out that tip line led to over 283 leads, and that they followed up on each one, according to Snellgrove. By that afternoon, they had the FBI give them a questionnaire, and this is what they would use when they started to go door to door of what they would need to ask. They had roadblocks set up. They had the neighborhood locked down, only residents could come in and out. And that there were over 280 homes in this Churchill Heights subdivision, and that they made it their plan to go to each and every home and talk to people, and as well as search the homes if they needed to. They did grid searches several times over these few days from Monday to Thursday when they found her body. So they didn't just grid search every day. They also searched, again, the pools, the culverts, the ponds, everywhere that she could have been. They searched this pretty much daily looking for her. On Wednesday, he says they started out the day again with canine searches again, more grid searches. And that on Wednesday afternoon, they did make contact with Cody Scott Taylor. That's when they went to his home. He was very cooperative. He was, nothing out of the ordinary. He did allow them to come into his home. They saw nothing out of the ordinary in his home, nothing to lead them to believe that he was the one who took Faye. So he did get spoken to. He was, at that point, he cooperated just fine. So after that, the next day on Thursday, we had that press conference. And in that press conference, they told us about 11:30 that they were going to start out with, the trash that day. They were going to focus heavily on the landfills, the trash from the neighborhood, intercepting the trash trucks because it was their trash day. And they wanted to see if they could find anything in the trash that would lead them in any direction. When they came back on for that press conference shortly before 2 p.m. the same day on Thursday the 13th, they told us that they had found something in the trash that led them to this address. And they found there was a deceased male there, and they found the body of Faye. They would not tell us what that item was, but that it was on her flyer. Today, he said that around 10 a.m. when they were going through the trash is when they actually found her boot, her polka dot rain boot in the trash, along with a soup ladle that was covered in dirt. He says this gave him a hunch, and they knew where the trash came from. They went to that residence. He went behind it. I guess they didn't go directly to the residence. They were searching around it because of the dirt, and he found Faye's body right around, 10:30 a.m. And at pretty much the exact same time, they received notification that there was a male bleeding on his back patio. When they got there, it was the 602 Piccadilly Square address, and it was a deceased male at that point. So we know he was bleeding, but again, they weren't telling us cause of death at that point. They did go ahead and take DNA from him, Faye, and his residence. And as I said before, he did speak to law enforcement the day before. But at this time, Officer Snellgrove said that the evidence they have found, the DNA from him, the home, and Faye, have connected them all three to the case. They believe that he is the sole perpetrator and he is the sole abductor of Faye Swetlik. They are not looking at any other suspects. All of the evidence points directly to him and that he was the one who killed Faye. They did not say what evidence, as in DNA. They didn't say what kind of DNA. They didn't say where that DNA was found. Of course, if he touched her, you'd have touch DNA. Or, if she was in the home, maybe there was some kind of DNA there that would connect her. I don't know, but they haven't told us what kind of DNA was found. This, again, kind of sends me towards the sexual assault, because that, if he had indeed, sexually assaulted Faye Swetlik. But like I said, they're not telling us that right now. As soon as the press conference was over, they did go ahead and take a few questions. Like I said, very few questions. They asked about where they believe the body was kept, because the coroner did say that her body had not been in that location and she was not killed in that location. And Snellgrove said they did not know where her body had been kept during the time between, when they spoke to him Wednesday and when she was found on Thursday. They did not know if, what happened. They have no idea from Monday to Thursday what happened. People had asked, did he have a roommate? Because we have heard so much speculation over a roommate. He did verify, yes, he did have a roommate. The roommate had been spoke to and cleared that the roommate is not a suspect, and that the roommate was not home much at all during the time frame that Faye went missing and was ultimately found. When asked about, moving the body, that sort of thing, he says that he obviously moved Faye's body under the cover of darkness, that she was put, in that location sometime Wednesday night after they spoke to him, and that, again, it had not been there. They asked if there was any surveillance footage that they had, captured or came across about Cody Scott Taylor. He did say that there had been some footage of suspicious activity from Cody Scott Taylor. He did not elaborate on that. And he, again, reiterated that the DNA was found on Cody, Faye, and the home. After the press conference, they did release the cause of death for Cody Scott Taylor. We've all wondered, was it homicide? Was it suicide? And it was a suicide. There was no note left. His cause of death was a self-inflicted wound to his neck. So I'm not sure what he did, stabbed himself, sliced his throat, whatever, but that's where the source of the blood was from. And he did commit suicide, and he is the only perpetrator they are searching. They say he is the one who abducted and killed Faye Swetlik. So at this time, that's all we have. If there are any more reports released, if there are any more autopsy results or any more in-depth information I can get about Cody Scott Taylor and about Faye Swetlik, I will definitely update you guys. Just remember to keep the family in your prayers. They are doing a vigil today, and I believe her funeral and things like that are Friday. So just keep them in your prayers. Remember them. and just hope that they can, cope with this horrible sadness. As always, thank you for listening to Mommy's Crime Time. I hope you have a great night. Thank you.